there! Welcome back! It's great to have you here again. I hope you're having an awesome day no matter where you're watching from around the world. Let's dive right into what's happening with XRP today. Looking at our one-day chart, we're sitting at $2.09 right now. We managed to hold above that $2 mark today, which is encouraging, but here's the thing. If Bitcoin keeps dropping, there's a real possibility XRP could slip below $2. And what's everyone talking about right now? You guessed it. Crypto is dead. Seriously, everywhere you look, every article that's coming out today is saying the same thing. It's all over for crypto. Expect prices to tank even further. But here's my take on this. If XRP does drop below $2, I'm backing up the truck and buying more. I actually just picked up some more on that last dip, and now I'm sitting back to see what unfolds next. Remember what I mentioned in yesterday's video? I said it was way too early to declare, "We're so back." Everyone was getting excited when we were above $2.20 again, but this is exactly why patience pays off. It's always smarter to wait and watch what happens over the next 24 to 48 hours. When you see a sudden move up, it's often followed by a pullback, and we just saw that play out perfectly. Now looking at Bitcoin, it's back above 91K, but earlier today it actually dropped all the way down to just above $88,000. People are getting pretty bearish, with some calling for Bitcoin to go under 70K this week. Honestly, I'm really hoping that doesn't happen. I'm hoping we see Bitcoin start bouncing back soon, because when it does, it's going to lift the entire market with it. Now let's check out the Fear and Greed Index. This is really interesting. It actually ticked up by 1 point from yesterday, going from 15 to 16. But make no mistake, the entire market is still in deep fear mode right now. And you know what? This is exactly the moment smart investors have been waiting for. This is when you buy more crypto, not sell it. While everyone else is panicking and there's blood in the streets, that's your cue to step in and scoop up those discounted prices. You definitely don't want to be selling on days like today. But here's what's crazy. I'm seeing so many people rushing to dump their crypto holdings right now. I honestly don't understand the logic behind that move. Here's the reality check. You haven't actually lost anything yet. These are just numbers on a screen moving around. This market is going to bounce back. It always does. And when it does, you'll be right back in profit territory. But here's the kicker. If you sell now during this panic, that's when you turn those paper losses into real, actual losses. That's when you actually lose money for real. So take a deep breath, zoom out, and remember that patience is what separates successful investors from everyone else. So get this, there's an expert out there saying XRP could hit $1.50 as it loses its breakout level. Just like I mentioned earlier, it seems like everyone's betting on us going much lower from here. I'm even seeing some people throw around the idea that XRP is heading back below $1. Personally, I just don't see that happening. But here's what I do think is possible. We might see a retest of that $1.80 level, maybe even dip a little lower than that before we start bouncing back. But here's the thing that really gets me excited about moments like this. When absolutely everyone thinks it's game over and the cycle has ended, that's usually when the biggest breakouts happen. It's like clockwork. We've seen this exact same pattern play out in previous bull runs. When sentiment gets this dark and everyone's throwing in the towel, that's historically been the perfect setup for the next major move up. And if history has taught us anything, it's that these patterns tend to repeat themselves. So while everyone else is focused on doom and gloom, smart money is usually positioning for what comes next. So here's a dramatic headline for you. XRP on the brink of the abyss. Crypto expert reveals how much more it can fall. Sounds pretty scary, right? This article is throwing around $1.73 as a potential target. Now, if I'm being honest, that seems more realistic than some of the other wild predictions I've been seeing. Personally, I don't even think we'll drop below $1.90 if we do lose that $2 support level. But here's what's interesting. There's actually a decent chance we don't even break back down below $2 at all. Remember, people were calling for that exact scenario to happen earlier today. And guess what? It didn't play out. When you really look at XRP's chart, it still looks incredibly strong. And here's the bottom line. Literally nothing has changed fundamentally. We're still seeing tons of XRP being removed from the circulating supply. We're still waiting on the Clarity Act to get passed. And I'll dive deeper into that in just a bit. But the key point is this. Nothing has actually changed for this cryptocurrency. XRP is still positioned to move massive amounts of money around the globe. All those payment rails, all that infrastructure, it's all still perfectly in place. The fundamentals haven't shifted one bit, which is why these price movements feel more like noise than anything substantial. So earlier today, people were absolutely losing their minds because of what you're seeing right here. This wild candle on Kraken. I mean, look at this thing. You're seeing a wick that shows XRP hit $91 on Kraken. Now, before anyone gets too excited, let me be crystal clear. This is not real price discovery. This isn't XRP actually trading at $91 across the market. What we're looking at here is one of three possible scenarios. First up, and this is the most likely culprit, we had what's called a thin order book moment. Here's how this works. When liquidity temporarily vanishes from the exchange, even one tiny order can get filled at an absolutely insane price because there's literally nothing sitting between the current price and wherever that order lands. And honestly, this happens on Kraken pretty regularly. The second possibility is what we call a fat finger order. Basically, someone accidentally placing a buy order way higher than they intended. Maybe they meant to buy at $2.91 and accidentally typed $91 instead. It sounds crazy, but these mistakes happen more often than you'd think in the fast-moving world of crypto trading.
So someone accidentally placed a market buy order with a ridiculously high limit. Yeah, it's a classic rookie mistake that can cost you big time if you're not careful.
And then we have option C, a data feed glitch. This one's actually pretty common. Sometimes TradingView or Kraken's API pulls corrupted candle data, and it creates these crazy spikes that never actually happened. This tends to show up most often on the shorter time frames, like 1-minute or 5-minute charts, especially during those overnight hours when trading volume is super thin. Here's the important takeaway, though. These random wicks don't tell us anything meaningful about where XRP is headed next. I know some people love to read into every little blip and spike, thinking it's some kind of secret signal about institutional buying or hidden market moves. But the reality is much simpler. It's just noise. Pure and simple market noise that happens in every single cryptocurrency and traditional market around the world. So don't let these anomalies distract you from the bigger picture or make you think there's some deeper meaning behind them. Sometimes a glitch is just a glitch, and that's exactly what we're looking at here.
Now, here's where things get really interesting, and it's something I've been saying for a while. I believe these are actually banks testing out XRP on private ledgers. Think about it for a second. Why do these crazy price glitches seem to happen almost exclusively with XRP? Sure, you might see it once in a blue moon with other cryptocurrencies, but with XRP, it's become almost routine. We've been seeing these anomalies throughout XRP's entire history, and that can't just be coincidence. I've always had this theory that glitches will lead to riches, and I genuinely believe that one day we're going to wake up and see XRP trading at one of these seemingly impossible price points for real. Here's my thinking. The banks are running tests right now, trying out XRP at various price levels behind the scenes. They're figuring out what works, what doesn't, and finding that sweet spot for global liquidity. When they finally finish their testing phase and go live, that test price could very well become the actual market price. We're talking anywhere from $100 to $5,000. Honestly, nobody knows for certain what that number will be. If you listen to Black Swan Capitalist, he's throwing around figures like $300,000 per XRP. Now, I can't say whether it'll be that astronomical or not, but here's what I do know with absolute certainty. XRP simply cannot remain cheap when it's being used to move trillions of dollars around the world every single day. The math just doesn't add up. So let's talk about something that's got everyone buzzing right now. The potential for XRP to hit $220 based purely on ETF activity. That's what analysts are saying, and honestly, it's pretty compelling stuff. Here's the breakdown. ETF inflows could genuinely push XRP toward that $220 price target. But here's the kicker that most people don't realize. Analysts are warning that XRP's available float is actually 10 times thinner than what the market expects. That means when these ETFs start doing direct spot buying, we could see some seriously rapid demand pressure kick in. And I'm totally on board with this theory because we're already seeing XRP getting pulled out of circulation left and right. Eventually, we're going to hit a scarcity wall, and it's going to be dramatic. Think about it. For years, everyone in the XRP community has been begging for the escrow to be burned, wanting massive amounts of XRP to just disappear from the market. Well, guess what? This might actually be that moment we've all been waiting for. These ETFs are going to be buying XRP every single day like clockwork. At some point, there's literally going to be no supply left to buy. So here's the ironic part. While people are panic selling their XRP right now, who do you think is scooping it all up? The ETF issuers, institutions, and whales are having a field day buying your discounted XRP. Before we know it, we'll have a sky-high priced XRP, and people will be buying tiny fractions of a single coin just to get exposure. That's exactly where this is all heading. Even at these current price levels, a lot of smart money is arguing that what we're seeing is ETF issuers quietly stacking XRP in the background while it's still cheap. Pretty brilliant strategy if you ask me. Now here's something really interesting coming from Paul Barron that caught my attention. He's pointing out that investors are actually pulling money out of the largest Bitcoin ETFs. And get this, those ETFs are now underperforming treasury bills. That's pretty wild when you think about it. But here's where it gets exciting. That money isn't just sitting on the sidelines. It's rotating into ETH, XRP, and Solana instead. This could be a game changer for us. Let me paint you a picture of what might be happening here. What's been propping up Bitcoin's price all this time? A huge chunk of it has been institutional money flowing through those ETFs, right? But now, they're selling those Bitcoin ETF positions, which is dragging Bitcoin's price down and taking the entire crypto market with it. But here's the plot twist. This could actually lead to something we've all been hoping for: decoupling from Bitcoin. Think about the flow of money here. It's leaving Bitcoin ETFs and flowing directly into XRP ETFs, Solana ETFs, and probably Ethereum ETFs too. So picture this scenario. All of a sudden, XRP's price starts rebounding fast, while Bitcoin is still stuck in the mud. Boom! We've officially decoupled from Bitcoin's price action. Now, this is just one possible scenario, and it's definitely a theory I've been wrestling with in my head because, and here's why the timing of all this feels so perfect to me. Jay Claver is predicting what he calls a perfect storm that could push XRP into triple digits, and he believes the XRP ETF supply shock has officially begun. One of the key things he's highlighting is Evernorth buying up XRP. Now, if you haven't heard of them, Evernorth is raising a massive $1 billion, and they're partnering with institutions to build DeFi projects directly on the XRP ledger. That's huge institutional validation right there. But it doesn't stop there. He's also talking about XRP treasuries being created by other companies at the same time. And here's the thing that really gets me excited. There are probably treasury companies we don't even know about yet that are quietly buying and holding XRP behind the scenes. Meanwhile, you've got ETF buyers scooping up XRP and locking it away for the long haul. Can you see what's building here? It's like a perfect storm of buying pressure from every direction. So when you look at XRP's price today and it's sitting in the red, everyone's having a meltdown saying, "Oh, it's game over for XRP, crypto is dead, I'm out." But they're completely missing the bigger picture. What's actually happening is we're setting up for some serious price discovery once XRP starts drying up on exchanges. And guess what? Those ETF buyers are still going to be trying to buy more XRP because we already know the institutional demand for these ETFs is absolutely massive. It's like watching a supply crunch building in real time, and that's exactly how you end up with high-priced XRP down the road. So check this out. Someone tried to throw shade at XRP by posting that the XRP ledger only generated $149 in fees over the past 24 hours. They thought this was some kind of gotcha moment to spread FUD about XRP, but it totally backfired, and Crypto Arsenal called them out perfectly. Get this. There were 1.8 million transactions yesterday, and the combined fees were just $149 total. The person posting this was trying to make it sound like a bad thing, but honestly, they just ended up promoting how incredibly cheap and efficient the XRP ledger is without even realizing it. Talk about an own goal. So thanks for doing our marketing for us, I guess? Here's the thing these FUD spreaders need to understand. They clearly didn't do their homework on what the XRP ledger was actually built to do. It's designed to move massive amounts of value super fast and at incredibly low cost. That's literally the entire point. So when you're trying to spread FUD by highlighting these low fees,
You're actually showcasing exactly how amazing the XRP ledger is. You're proving that it does exactly what it was designed to do: facilitate millions of transactions for practically nothing. This is definitely one of those maybe you should have done your research first moments for all the FUD spreaders out there in the crypto community. Sometimes the best advertising comes from your critics. Now here's something really interesting from Chris Kuiper, who happens to be the VP of Research at Fidelity. So this guy definitely knows what he's talking about. He's asking the million-dollar question: is this a local bottom for Bitcoin and other digital assets? And he's being totally honest about it, saying nobody knows for sure, which I really appreciate because that's the truth. But here's what he finds helpful. He uses something called the short-term holder MVRV chart along with their cost basis to gauge the probabilities. Sounds technical, but basically he's pointing out that what we're seeing right now is just a regular 20 to 30% drawdown within our current bull market. Nothing too crazy or out of the ordinary. The MVRV ratio is showing a similar valley pattern that we've seen before, and it's basically testing how strong the hands are of short-term holders before things reset and move higher again. So in plain English, what he's essentially saying is that it looks like we might have hit the bottom for Bitcoin and the rest of crypto. But again, he's being real with us. Nobody knows for absolute certain. Everyone's looking at their own charts, throwing out their own theories, and at the end of the day, we're all still speculating to some degree. Here's what I always tell people. If XRP starts moving up right now, let's give it 24 to 48 hours before we get too excited. That time frame will give us a much better read on whether we're actually heading back up or if we're going to see another leg down. What I'm really hoping for is simple. I want to see Bitcoin start rebounding and take the entire market with it. That would basically confirm that we're heading back into alt season territory, which is exactly what we want to see. So here's some interesting news. The odds of a December Fed rate cut just plunged to 33% as Bitcoin dropped below 89K. It's looking like there won't be a December rate cut after all. I've been seeing a lot of people saying the Fed was going to keep cutting rates through December, but now that seems pretty unlikely. But here's my take on how this affects crypto. I actually think this might be better for us than most people realize. Think about it. Look at what happened with the last couple of rate cuts. They did absolutely nothing for crypto. Zero. Nada. The market didn't budge. So honestly, another Fed rate cut would probably lead to more of the same. Basically nothing happening. Maybe it's better to just leave rates alone for now and see where things go naturally. That's how I'm looking at it anyway. Because here's what I still believe with absolute certainty. We're going to see a massive breakout begin. It's just a matter of time, and it all depends on how things develop from here. The ETFs are going to keep devouring XRP from circulation like clockwork. On top of that, more treasury companies are going to keep popping up. Because once one company did it successfully, I knew it would create a domino effect. Other companies are definitely going to follow suit. I think there are probably companies still sitting on the sidelines, waiting for clearer regulations before they jump in and create their own XRP treasuries. So that's something else we've got to look forward to. Bottom line, scarcity and demand are definitely coming. That's not a question of if, it's a question of when. And remember, we don't even have all these ETFs live yet. We're still waiting for that to happen. Until it does, stay patient, stay positive, and let's build wealth together. Alright, that's going to wrap up this video. Thanks so much for watching. I really appreciate all of you. I'll catch you in the next one. Have an awesome night.